Welcome to the Winning Move Podcast. I'm your host, Stratton Brown. I interview successful entrepreneurs from around the world to see what moves they've made in their lives to get successful and, more importantly, stay successful. I'm here to make sure you can create a better life for you and your family. Let's tune in. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, thank you guys so much for sharing it with all of your friends. And if it does bring you any value, please continue to share this with all your friends and family. We're blowing up what it's called. The other day I posted we're number 99 in the Philippines for business. Woohoo! But we have an awesome guest on today, my good friend, Mike Zuber. We talk every week, talking really about what's going on in the markets and what Mike reads every day in this day of financial news is awesome. If you guys haven't checked it out, that's where I go to educate myself really with unbiased info to see, okay, what do I need to know? So
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. So I liked your video the other day. That's why I labeled it this. Is the American dream dead?
Thank you.
Well, I think, what do you think the American dream is?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think that's where more people need to start. I think the American dream is, you can have anything you want as long as you're willing to put in the time and work for it. The American dream, as far as I'm concerned, is not given, it is earned. And it's that earning part that I think sometimes gets lost in the media, the left and the rights, the this and the that's. You can do anything, right? In America, you may be born into poverty. You may have spent time in jail. You may be a high school dropout. I interview multimillionaires all the time that are one or more of those traits. And if they can do it, the person watching this can do it. The only question is, are you man or woman enough to look yourself in the mirror and go, I want it. I want it that bad. And God damn it, I'm going to work for it. It's not going to be handed to you. The American dream is not handed to anybody. It is taken. It is earned. It is sacrificed for. So that's what I think it is. It's anything you want. Go get it.
I think, and I'm all about the hard work, but I think people need to know what you need to work hard on because there are so many broke people who work way harder than we do, but we make more money. And that is truly how I feel, yeah. Right? Like they physically work harder. They're working more hours, but they don't know what they need to be working on, right? Or they're using the wrong tools to do so.
Well, I certainly think there is, I call it the game of money. There is a game of money. And if you're not taught by your parents, and most of us weren't, you go learn it yourself. The game of money is pretty simple. We are taught, or at least most of us are taught, or you watch, and it's, I'm going to go trade my time, which I never get back, for some kind of monetary return. If it's minimum wage, so be it. That's where I started. My first hourly wage was like $3.85. That's what I was doing at 14 years old or whatever it is. And, or it could be something significantly more than that. If you are kind of, a brain surgeon or heart doctor or a professional athlete, right? You can make lots of stuff. So there's a game of money. It starts with your income. Then there's all kinds of list of expenses with the biggest one being taxes, because taxes are treated very differently if you're an employee versus a business owner. And then there is some kind of net number. And the net number is what I call freedom dollars or discretionary income or whatever you want to call it. But the deal is the larger your freedom dollars are, the more you can save that you could ultimately invest and buy time back. That's why I consider myself an investor, above average investor, but not an entrepreneur, because my whole life was being about increase top line, control or sacrifice the expenses, make this bottom line number as big as possible so that I can invest. And, oh, by the way, over time have assets pay for my expenses, right? That's the game of money in a nutshell to me.
So how can people get better at playing the game of money? And do you think, how can they increase that bottom line? Like, how can they go find that job to where they're not trading their time for their money anymore?
Yeah. So again, it's hard to do it with, we're going to talk about most people, right? And then these conversations really should be had individually. But I believe most people need to do an exercise that I've now done with 5 of my experts. It's called choices. It's basically an exercise. It's 10 questions. And we could play it right now just with you on one of the questions, okay. And then they can go look at this, right? So when we think about choices, we're going to take the biggest expense most people have, and that is Stratton Brown. What does it cost to live in wherever, your house, your condo, your apartment, wherever it is, like rent or mortgage, taxes and insurance, maintenance, whatever it is. What does it cost you today to live in that? Round number is fine.
$2,600.
Okay, $2,600. Awesome. So first off, congratulations, because not everybody knows that answer, which is just frightening to me. But now here's the deal. With certainty that you could live on less than $2,600, and you probably have in your life. If you were willing to live in a different part of town, if you were willing to downsize and have one less bedroom or this or that, what is the minimum you think you could get by with? I know you have a kid, a significant other. Like if you wanted to downsize from 2,600 to some number, what would be the minimum you'd be comfortable sacrificing to? Not saying you have to, but what would be the minimum be?
And you're just talking about rent, utilities, taxes, insurance.
Yeah, right now. Yes. In today's world. Yep.
Where would I want to go? So I've looked at it, right? And I think it'd only be a couple $100 down. I like where I live. Like if I absolutely had to, I'd move into like a 1-bedroom apartment in downtown. So like
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Like $500.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you're not going to live in your car. So we're going to take that off the table. But if you had to go smaller, different part of town, and you still have to say yes, what would that minimum be? Would it be $800-900 a month? 1,000, 1,500? I mean, it doesn't have to be all the way down to 500.
Let's call it $1,200.
Exactly.
$1,200.
Okay. So $1,200. And just because I believe choices is also about dreaming. Now let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about Stratton Brown, just Mac Daddy, maybe multiple houses, different parts of the world. What is the most you could imagine spending on your, living? And again, that could be a second home that's vacant when you're not there, vacation home, whatever. What would be the Mac Daddy example?
Like, and this is including multiple houses?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's my dream is if I were going to do it, I'd have 3 places around the world.
Yeah. So what is it called? I want a $30 million house in Malibu. I don't know exactly what that mortgage would be. Then I want one in,
let's call it 20 grand. I'm just making up numbers.
Right. So 20 grand, one in Monterey, call that another 20 grand. And then a ranch in Utah, call that that one will be the most expensive one. Call that one 30 grand. So
Mac Daddy's $70,000 a month just for living.
Yeah. $70,000 a month.
Okay. So that's choices. And again, this is in my thing called the game of money. So that's one. And there's 9 other. It's food, it's auto, it's all of these things. But back to the game of money. What people don't realize is the thing that you can control the most immediately like that is expenses. So for example, if you wanted to get to a situation where you wanted to increase your disposable income because you're just struggling, you hate working so hard, all of that stuff, you could immediately save $1,400 by leaving where you are now and going to that smaller option. That's $1,400 that falls to the bottom line. That's what people don't realize. The reason that Olivia and I were able to do what we did over 15 years is we made those kind of hard calls for 10 years. We took where we were living and we made choices across the board to go smaller so that we could go bigger later. Most people don't realize. They like to talk about increasing the top line. They like to talk about this. They like to talk about that. But the thing that you can address the fastest is expenses. So a lot of people, y'all need to live cheaper. Y'all need to stop flexing for people that don't even like you, right? Most of us spend money on things that are just silly. So that's the first rule of game of money is look yourself in the mirror, sacrifice a little bit, get uncomfortable, and live cheaper. So that the end of the line, your bottom line, your freedom dollars gets bigger, and then you could buy assets. And it's assets that produce cash flow that allow us to ultimately leave our day job. So next next is top line. You have got to figure out a way to increase top line. But again, the fastest thing to do is reduce expenses. I personally love commission sales. I love the fact that I could, get a sexy package, they call it, on target earnings, makes very little at a base. But if I blow it out, I can make huge upside. So if that is your character, if that's who you are, that's what I would do. Absolutely. I would go do that again in a heartbeat. If I lost everything, I'd get a commission-based job selling something somewhere. And then I would work ungodly hours and be the best at it, right? I don't slouch. I would go do that. If that's not who you are, you don't like people, you don't like public speaking, English is not your second language or whatever, you have to add skills that your employers value. You have to figure out what that is. And oh, by the way, in today's job market, it's probably easiest to quit where you are and go somewhere else. Today, labor, unlike almost any time in my history, has more power, right? Even if you are just a server, like at the Cheesecake Factory, Olive Garden will pay you more, right? If you're at Olive Garden, then, Ruth's Chris will pay you more, right? So realize what those providers have and go get your money. So again, reduce expenses, increase top line, however you can. Even people don't realize this. Was we were doing this, I had multiple jobs. I was a 6-figure earner during my Monday through Friday, and I even had a second job Saturday and Sunday at different points in my life.
Really?
Yeah, just
doing what?
I was selling washers and dryers at Sears, full commission, right, early in my career. So I just wanted money. I had to pay off student debt, and I wasn't going to wait.
True.
I paid off my student debt, which was 6 figures, almost 6 figures, because I worked a second job. My second job, all of that income every week, because I was paid weekly, went to student debt because I just didn't want to have that. When that student debt was gone, then I left. So, I don't know. I think I've worked more than 70 hours a week for most of my life because that's just how you do it.
I don't know. I posted on Instagram the other day. What the fuck are people thinking about all day? Like, if you don't have so I was going like, okay, we got a sales manager who may be leaving. I have an eviction going on. I'm scaling this business. What's it called? We need to raise like $700,000 in capital, right? So I have like all these other issues that are going on. And then I'm sitting here thinking like, what are normal people thinking about every day?
Well, I think there's a lot of people playing video games. There's a lot of people waiting for that next free money from the government. And, life's pretty comfortable right now. I mean, you get $300 extra on top of the state employment. They send you a $1,400 check every other month. You don't have to pay rent or a mortgage just because you can claim this or that thing. Life's been pretty comfortable for folks. And oh, by the way, it is about to get very uncomfortable. All these goodies are going away. And
they need to.
Oh, no question. But yeah, I think most people have gotten comfortable being comfortable. And if you don't, that's not the American dream. The American dream is not to be, sitting on a couch playing, Warcraft all day or whatever it's called.
I mean, if you're good enough and get paid for it, go ahead.
Yeah, no, if you're in the the top 1% of 1%, yeah, go make that $1 million. I got a word for you. It's not you, right? Just stop it, right? You're not Steph Curry launching 3-pointers from half court. I mean, come on. He's got once in a generation gifts. Stop pretending to be Steph Curry.
I have a slightly different viewpoint on that. And I think that is the hardest thing people need to come to terms with.
Okay.
And it's like a business. When do you pivot? When do you give up? Like, when do you decide, right? Like when I got cut from Seattle and I finally had to make that decision of like, hey bro, it ain't it. Right. But
let's talk about that. That's good.
You never know, bro. You never know. And like, I never shut down people's dreams of if they're dedicated, right? Because we all know people who have hustle. If the person is truly taking it seriously and they're about their hustle, like, hey man, go and fucking get it. But if you're not and you're a bum, that's another thing. Yeah.
Here's the deal. I am right there with you. If you are putting in legendary work, see, that's the deal about being an entrepreneur, an athlete, a real estate investor, is you have to be unbalanced, right?
Unbalanced doesn't exist, bro.
It doesn't exist.
Does not exist.
Not if you want to be the best. Absolutely does not. Work-life balance in the beginning does not exist.
It never will.
Yeah, it's just it hurt. If you want it, that's okay. But don't tell me you also want to be Steph Curry, right? Just to use that example, right? Steph Curry probably jacks up 3,000 shots a day after or before practice, right? Whatever the number is.
Right.
If you're putting in 45 minutes, during your exercise and you think that's enough to make you, Steph Curry, probably not. Okay? Probably not.
And I mean, think about, you have to become a completely different person to get to Steph Curry. So you're never going to be the same, right? You're never, ever going to be able to chill out. Like Ed Milet talks about this. I feel it now. I know you still wake up at fucking 5 a.m. every day. Like the person you had to become to get to where you are, like you're never going to go back to there to where you're not putting in work.
Yeah, Absolutely. You fundamentally rewired your brain. Your brain rewires your attitude. Yeah, I'm a very different person today at nearly 50 than I was at 30. I just am.
Completely different. And then what's it called? My biggest expense legitimately is food.
Mine too. I mean, if you look at what Olivia and I spend on food a month, you would most people would cry. I mean, we eat out really well. I had a tomahawk steak this big last night. She had 2 lobster tails. I mean, we take care of ourselves with food.
Right. I think that is truly my biggest expense, to where it's above my actual living expense. But like, I don't want to settle. Like, I've been so broke to where I can't eat good food, to where now I have a thing to where, yes, we're just gonna eat good food, and Kalani's a really good cook. So if we want to go buy something, we just go buy something.
Absolutely.
To where I'll figure out. To me, I think you need to get to a mental state to where that $1,000 really isn't that big of a deal, to where you can be like, okay, like you can think and $1,000 shows up. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does.
Like for you, like at a point that was never, ever, ever a thing to where you can make $1,000 significantly easier than you could save $1,000. Does that make cutting $1,000?
Without question. This game of money we talked earlier, remember I was trying to be very specific. For most people, the easiest thing to do is reduce expenses. It is still the fastest, but that's not what I do. I don't look at my life today and look at what I can cut out, right? If I want something, it's like, okay, like something I did a couple of months ago, I guess 6 weeks ago, is, I stroked a check for $25,000 for a 9-day, first class trip with butler service and all this kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, all right, how am I going to pay for that? Right. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just go find a deal. And 3, 4, 5 weeks later, deal shows up. I'll probably make $40K on it. It's like, oh, trip's paid for, all done.
Right. So one of the main reasons I wanted a certain amount of cash flow from Calm Editions is just so I could buy a nice car.
Yeah, you gotta have that want. You gotta have that desire. You gotta have that thing that's out there. Life is awesome. For me, the whole idea is, once you understand your minimum, back to that kind of choices conversation, once you hit that, you hit that maybe plus 10 or 15%, your options get, the ability to make money and see opportunities expands, because when you're trying to get to that number, you're kind of
bro, it's a fucking push. It's like nothing else matters, bro. And I want to talk to you about how you got out of your broke mentality of what you were raised in.
Oh,
right. So how you broke out of that and created like new rules for yourself, new laws for yourself, because you've been indoctrinated by your parents. To where the other day I had a conversation with one of my friends. He was talking about gas prices. Yeah. So why the fuck are you worrying about gas prices? You should be worrying about like so many other things before that's not important to you. You need to be worrying about how to make more fucking money. And he was like, well, I remember growing up and my mother saying we can only put X amount of gas in our car. And so that still sticks with me. I was like, bro, we got to break past that. Like, we got to get past that. And he's in a commission sales job now. I was like, that's not important anymore. Like that, no matter what.
Yeah, I agree.
So how did you break it, bro?
Well, first off, you got to acknowledge it's hard, right? Again, right, like your friend. I mean, I grew up, there was a couple months in my life that I'll never forget. I can still close my eyes and be back there. I think I was 11 years old, and my father had been unemployed for almost a year. We had no money. And basically I got 1 baked potato a day, right? That was all I had for 30 days. That's all the money we had, right? Just a big baked potato. And they were, like roots were growing out of it and stuff. But yeah, that's all I ate for a month, a single potato. So I was never homeless, but we were pretty close a couple of times. And the biggest thing, the parents, you got to realize your kids are watching. For all the love and whatnot my mother gave me, some of my truest memories are the fact that money's a stressor, right? My parents fought all the time about money, and it was loud and it was physical, not good. So the first thing you need to realize is, what did I learn about money growing up? If you have money, you're happy. And if you don't have money, you're sad. That was the lesson I took from my youth. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is go figure out how to chase money. So what did I do? Well, I equated college with money. So I got a college degree. And then I equated a master's degree with more money. So I got a master's degree. I was, climbing the corporate ladder because that's where I thought money lived. And I did that until I was 30. I mean, I was, I thought I'd be an EVP or a CXO or whatever by now. But at 30 years old, my wake up call happens. So at 29, I start playing in the stock market. I miserly save about $7,000. That's all I have. But between 29 and 30, I turned that $7,000 into almost $200,000. More money than I'd ever seen. More money than my parents had ever seen. I was the shit, right? $200,000, which is so sad, but I remember feeling like untouchable. Lo and behold, I get uber aggressive and I go on margin and I push my chips in the middle because you know what? I'm going to be a millionaire, goddammit. And pretty soon the market goes against me. And that $200,000 turns into $40,000. So I lose over $150,000 in like 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
So again, right? So I cash out again. So, some people go, well, shit, you started with 7. Now you have 40. Congrats. I'm like, fuck you. I don't think about the 40. I think about the 200 I lost, you dumbass. Fuck. So, that stuck with me. And I'm like, you idiot, right? You started it as investor. You did the work. You can read a financial statement. You started it as investor. You got cocky. You had beginner's luck. Then you got stupid and the market ate your lunch, which is happening right now to a lot of people. So I licked my wounds. I was so defeated. I remember one day I'm Warren Buffett and the next day I'm a moron. And I go to a bookstore and I got to tell you, dude, it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I read 12 times in a row. And it changed my mindset. It was the click. It was like, rental properties. Positive cash flow. I can learn rental properties and actually create value. And that was it, man. And from there, I was hooked. All I did was real estate for the next 20 years. I let everything else go. And that's why a lot of people aren't going to be successful because they have shiny object syndrome. I was a stock market guy. I did really, really well. And then I didn't. And then I picked up, I understood what I did wrong. And I got into real estate and never looked back. I didn't get distracted for 20 years.
What do you think makes Rich Dad, Poor Dad so special? Like I read it once and like I could say, yeah, it's a good book, but it's not.
Well, it's done two things, right? It's funny, of all the multimillionaires I talk to, when you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, two things happen. And it'll be interesting to see where you are in this. Most people, I think, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and think like me. I want to be Robert and Kim, which is Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. I want to buy rentals, right? That was an introduction to me. But here's the deal, and you actually may read this or read it again and think different. I've had a couple of my multimillionaires read it and go, forget being Kim and Robert. I want to be Rich Dad.
Yes. I thought that was the whole concept. Like you want to be the rich dad. Like you're learning from the rich dad. The rich dad's telling you what you need to do.
You know how mind-boggling that, now that I can look back on how silly I was and myopic I was, what you just said, you're like Greg Dickerson, the guy who started with a truck and a toolbox and now is worth 9 figures. He read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he smacks me around all the time in our videos together. He's like, why the hell do you want to be Robert? Go be the rich dad. I'm like,
I don't know why. I don't know how you could take it in any other way. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and oh yeah, bro, you got to go be Rich Dad. That's where you're learning from.
I look now and I laugh and I joke, but yeah, I read that book and I'm trying to be Rich Dad, sitting there watching Rich Dad. Oh, I want to be this. I want to be Rich Dad. All right, I want to be Robert. But Greg reads it like you read it, like, all right, I'm gonna go be Robert or Rich Dad. I'm gonna go have multiple businesses. They're gonna feed on each other and all this stuff. I did not read that book and get it. I still laugh all the time. It's funny.
Man, I got to interview him. 9 figures.
Yeah, I can make it happen.
Yeah, let's set up an introduction after this because I'm fascinated by him and what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
Do you wish you would have gone bigger earlier? I know you're against big, and that's one thing. So we're looking at storage facilities.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking okay, I don't want to go after, and Kalani, I've talked about this, anything lower than 20,000 square feet. Because it's going to take me the same amount of time and energy and capital raising to get a 7,000 square foot facility as to compared to a 20,000 square foot facility.
Yeah. So that's really based on, again, who you are, right? You got to know thyself. I went as big and as fast as I could at the time. The one wrinkle is I was not comfortable taking other people's money, right? My first 15 years. So that's the big deal, right? If you're comfortable doing that and you can provide the returns and raise capital and do it all the right way, yeah, the right answer is you should go bigger. But if you're relying only on your capital and your, back to the game of money, discretionary or freedom dollars, you're kind of limited by how big that pile gets.
I'll give you that. Like, yeah, that's very, very, very true. And like for me, I was like, okay, we'll raise the cash and then I'll get at least a 10% return. And I know worst case scenario is it's already operating at this, this is what they get. And so I feel comfortable in that.
Yeah, if that's where you are and that's the business. I mean, let's be clear, right? The only way you're going to get to being 9 figures is by taking other capital and going big.
Yeah.
But most people don't have to do that, Stratton. We shouldn't, if most people, we need to replace a $70K salary. That's the average salary in the US. 70 grand. I don't know. What is that? Like $5,000 a month, 5,500 a month. You don't have to go very big to be able to replace that.
So then that's the next thing. I think people think that's big and it's not. Like
it's just not.
And I don't want to come across as like an ungrateful asshole, but it's like nothing. Like it's nothing at all to where like if that's an issue, you can replace that pretty easily if you just go and push your 401k into some real estate. You should be able to replace that, right? If you, let's say you're 50 years old, you got a lot of money in that 401k, you could probably replace that if you go give it to an experienced investor. You have that cash coming in.
Yeah, I mean, the real estate is proven over time to be a lot. It's where a lot of cash flow and it just works, right? You need to know your market. You can create value. There's opportunities all the time. I don't. The whole indoctrination, right? Work 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%. That kills me. But a lot of people want to do what Dave Ramsey says, right? I think saving all your life and calling yourself a millionaire at 60. It's okay, but
you're gonna die at you're gonna die at 35 if you want my honest opinion. Like you can't, you just don't know what's coming around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
what's it called? My dad just had a seizure on a bicycle.
Oh my goodness!
Right, that's why I flew back to Utah. But like, you don't fucking know what's gonna happen. Yeah. You don't know what's gonna happen. Your kids don't know anything, and so you're working all of these hours just to get a measly 5 years when your body doesn't work anymore. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think people need to decide what they want. And again, what I tell people all the time, if you're comfortable working 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%, go for it. Awesome. You want to be a teacher or a policeman or whatever it is, go for it. I believe there's more in life. I believe you can do bigger and better things. It takes sacrifice in the moment. You got to live uncomfortable now so you can live great later.
And so I think you can still be a teacher and do these things.
Oh, no question. I wasn't saying you couldn't, but
right. But I don't think you should settle for, and I do think money is a big thing. And people say, oh, money doesn't matter. I think if you have to go to a restaurant, and I got this from a podcast, right? If you have to go to a restaurant and you're like, oh, I want this, but I'll settle for this, then you need to do more. You know, like to where you don't have to like really like settle in your life, to where at least you get to a point to no matter what you want to do, it is 100% possible.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that I saw really funny. Apparently, Dave Ramsey has this thing at the end. Once you're debt free, you tip the bill, right? So if the bill's $29, you tip $29, right? He calls it tip the bill. One of those things. I mean, if you haven't done that before and you wait till you're free, I mean, that's crazy. In this last year or so, I think I've tipped the bill, 40 times. I've tipped $100 before. Just cause on like a $20 bill, because it's just like they're starving for stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you're making sacrifices, it's crazy.
You got to exercise that giving muscle. And like, I'm not religious whatsoever, but I give away 10% of my money.
Wow.
I give away 10% of my money to just nonprofits that I believe in and anything else. And I'm a big, like, just the tithe of it and the karma of it, it always comes back, right? And I've been in awful financial situations, still giving away the 10%. And then I always know I'm going to be okay at least. But like, if you can't give away your 10% when you're broke, you're not going to give away 10% when you're rich.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing. I think is people need to realize, if you're making 50 grand a year and you can't give away 500, what makes you think you're going to, when you make 500 grand, you're going to give away 50 grand? Right. Money accentuates who you are now. You don't discover a new person once you have money. If you're a dick when you have no money, you're a dick when you have money. It's just how it works.
1 minute, Mike. I got to remove you and add you again. You're frozen.
Yeah, hopefully the voice is coming through.
Yeah, your voice. Okay, your voice is coming through.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
So what else do I have for you? And I think the American dream, same as you, is making sure that you can do whatever you want. Like do whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want, wake up when you want, and your life is by your design and you don't have anybody telling you who you need to worship, like any of that. And like you can live the ideal life with the people you love.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, again, the whole beauty about the American dream is you can do whatever you want. If you want to be a bank robber, for example, well, go be a bank robber. Just realize one of the things you're signing up for is to eventually get caught and you'll be spending time in jail. My dad always had a saying, you can do whatever you want as long as you're willing to pay the consequences.
Exactly.
I'm like, ooh, that hurts.
And so, all right, let's cascade this over into why is Blackstone shopping?
Yeah, I love that. You heard that this morning.
I was listening to it before I got in. Like, I don't get it. Like, why are they shopping in, what's it called? That's top 5 priciest markets in America.
San Diego, yeah. So it's funny. I just sent that out this morning on the Daily Financial News. Blackstone, I'm going to go from memory. It was $1 billion, bought 5,600 units in San Diego. I think it's like $174K a door. So I've actually already had some brokers reach out to me saying they got a steal, right?
Really?
Yeah, $174K a door in San Diego is below market, even if it's studios.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So basically, a couple of people that reached out in the last 4 or 5 hours are like, if it was studios and they were selling piecemeal, it's probably more like $225 to $250 a door. And we don't know.
They got a fucking bargain.
They got a bargain because they can stroke a check. So here's the deal, folks. People are looking at all these tax changes, and some people are going to decide to sell now. So we have a seller who built up a huge portfolio over time that wants out. And there's like 4 people in the world that can stroke $1 billion check without issues. One of them is Blackstone's, and they just made 20% on their $1 billion because they can write a check. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's very true. Right, 20%. Being able to write a check for $1 billion. That's really hard to comprehend. At least for me. It's a lot of on-hand cash.
Yeah, well, again, they probably have it in equity lines and commitments and all of this stuff. They will close that transaction in under 3 weeks.
So do you have multiple bank accounts because you're freaked out that the banks are going to lose your money?
I certainly do. Yeah, FDIC limits at $250K. Yeah, I have money spread out over several banks.
That's a crazy thing to think about. Like,
I'm not freaked out, but so just be clear, I'm not freaked out. But if you tell me the limit's 250, you guarantee I'm not going to have more than 240 at any bank.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that went into place after the Great Depression, right?
Yep. FDIC insurance was one of the things that came back after bank runs. Yep.
That is so crazy. But yeah, being able to write a check that big and they got a steal, I didn't know it was a steal. And then what do you know what's going on with the gas shortage? And I've learned about this on Sunday.
Yeah.
To where, so I have a friend who has a pretty big development company in Utah. They have a guy who at a point in time ran $1 billion hedge fund. Mm-hmm. When the market crashed, he created an algorithm to show all of his investors that they had their money while he traded back and got all of their money back. And then someone went to pull it out and he had like a couple million left to get, and it all went to shit. And so he went to prison.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, it turned into a Ponzi scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Now he is an amazing, what's it called? He's a bonds guy. One of the smartest people I ever know. And him and everyone who he worked with in the hedge fund industry. So he has someone he's the bonds guy. They have a commodities guy. They have an oils guy. They have about 20 different niches of people, and they get on the phone every Sunday and talk. And one of the guys controls so much market share that he can control the market as far as he's like oil trades. He has that much capital under management.
Jesus.
So he told me about that. So what do you think this oil shortage is going to do to us? As far as I know, it shouldn't even affect us, the gas company. It's only affecting the East Coast, but they'll still raise our prices on the West Coast.
Yeah, so I think this is a one-off event. Essentially, as I understand it, I started talking about this on Monday. I think it's called Colonial Pipeline was hit by a ransom attack. It looks to be from Russia, and took their pipeline down. And because we work in an environment of just-in-time inventory, a lot of people were impacted, right? You saw gas lines for the first time since the 70s. You had airlines having to actually, like if they were flying from Atlanta to California, they had to make a stop in Texas, even though it was a direct flight, because they needed gas. The pipeline, like when you work in a just-in-time environment, any disruptions in the supply chain hurt. Look at lumber, look at copper, look at cars. We're seeing a lot of this in this crisis. The supply chain's just broken. So that's what happened. So lo and behold, Colonial Pipeline tried to fix the problem, couldn't. It appears they paid $5 million to get their systems back, and now they are back online. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think the gas shortage really was a external event. It wasn't really a supply or demand problem. It was just terrorists extracting a $5 million bounty from a company, and it should scare all of us just how fragile our infrastructure is. Like who's next, right? And as far as the West Coast, the pipeline doesn't come here, shouldn't impact us. We don't ship. There's no pipeline that goes from California to Virginia, so it should really be no impact. Maybe some. There should be no impact. I don't think.
And then he told me about the lumber people going on strike because at the economies of scale, the lumber people, even if they go and hire more employees, they'll never make more money than they're making now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen? I am highly interested because if I am a lumber guy, I'm saying get the fuck out of here. I'm done until I get paid more.
Yeah, it is. Again, this is all because of the supply chain being disrupted. Right now, lumber is up 300% from 12 months ago, 375%. I just had a call with a lumber guy. He's called the Lumberjack. He's one of my experts. And lumber's up 375%. And it's not the employees. It's not the pipeline. It's the people way back at the beginning just going, damn, things are good. So if they can control how much stuff's coming in, they make some pretty good prices. Although I think lumber is already turning on. What is today? Friday. So Wednesday, lumber was quote unquote limit down. So lumber is like all commodities, gold, copper, gas, all of these things. And there's limits how high and low it could go on a day. So limit down's a big deal. I think it was $1,500 limit down. So I think lumber's already cracking.
Oh, okay. So it should start to return to base.
Yeah. Well, again, remember it's 375 and base is 100. So even if it's limit down, 7 days in a row, it's going to take a while to get there. But I think we've seen peak lumber. I think peak lumber is over.
So do you think the economy should start to even out? I don't see I still don't see a housing correction or a housing dip for a very long time.
There's no housing crash. There's no housing dip. If these idiots that are calling for a crash don't understand basic math. This is what I'm willing to give you, right? We were up 15% last year. We'll probably be up 11 or 12 this year. If you call a crash going from say 10% to 6%, okay, fine. That's a crash. But last time I checked, 6% is not a negative number. We are just going to grow slower, right? We are getting to a point where it will become unaffordable. Rising values in a rising interest rate environment will be a problem, but it's not going to be a bubble until we do stupid loans. And we're not doing stupid loans. The only way you get a bubble and a bubble pops is stupid loans. Right now, we're just going to take the air out of the balloon and the balloon will just deflate slowly. There is no crash coming. There's just no crash.
So do you have any idea what's going to set us up to are we ever going to be able to make as much money as everybody else did in 2008?
Well, first off, I hope we never have a crash like 2008 again. That was horrific. There's nothing set up right now where we're going to, Fresno, the market you're in, it went down. I had a property go from 270 to 75. I hope that doesn't happen.
Huge dip.
Dude, that's 70%. I hope that doesn't happen again. That was so devastating. So no, I don't think I don't think Fresno goes down 50% in the rest of my lifetime.
Okay.
Could it go down 10%? Sure. But 50? No chance. Or at least I hope not.
I don't see Fresno. I see Fresno pushing out a lot of people with an affordability issue. Like if these prices going up, like Fresno just has no wages. Like they have no legitimate jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like there's nowhere here for people to work to afford where they need to live. That's just what I think.
No, I think Fresno's Fresno to me is sort of like this caterpillar. I think they are, right? Caterpillar becomes butterflies. Is that how it works? Mm-hmm. Right. I think Fresno will be a very different economy in a decade. Right now it's very services, very farm, very food based. I think Fresno is the last affordable spot in California. Fresno has been identified by several things as being the number one investment market, both for houses and small multifamilies. LoopNet just said it's the number one market. So what I would tell you is if you think real estate in Fresno is expensive today, wait 4 or 5 years. But part of that answer is wages have to go up. So I think as the population grows, as it is a magnet for tech and all of that, I think Fresno morphs into a tech hub and a distribution and warehouse. And I think average income in Fresno today is like $58K. It could be $72K in 5 to 10 years, which is it's a 20% bump. So I think Fresno has a lot of good days ahead.
I don't hear about any tech companies coming here or anything. If anything, you hear about warehouses.
Yeah, distribution warehouse is the easiest. Yeah, because you're right, center of California, you're a day from LA, a day from the Bay. I think you might be surprised. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe it's call centers first. Who knows? But I've already. Just today I was doing an article or reading about all the tech companies leaving San Francisco. The amount of office space that's available for subleasing in San Francisco has never been this high. Never been this high. And those people are like, we can have people elsewhere. They don't have to be in San Francisco. I think eventually people pick Fresno because again, it's central of California.
Do you think San Francisco's dead? Like, do you think it'll ever bounce back?
Well, I define dead. I think office is about to be a lot less expensive. I think again, San Francisco's in so much trouble. Like 1 bedroom, 1 bath rentals down 45%. Think about being a landlord where your rents go down 45% and your vacancies go up 50% and your bad debt goes up 20%. There's going to be so many apartment buildings in San Francisco that go back to the bank in the next couple of years.
And so then what's the bank supposed to do with all those tenants who they can't kick out without giving them $150,000? There's going to be a lot of blood in San Francisco for people from pain, but where there's pain, there will be deep pockets. Wall Street will eventually step in and buy those things, but they're going to want a hell of a discount because being a landlord in San Francisco is horrible. Bro, it's
horrible.
Awful. Like
you couldn't give me a place in San Francisco.
No.
I wouldn't take it.
What's going on? We were evaluating a triplex over there, and the rents were, I kid you not, $800, $1,200, and $2,000.
Oh wow, $4,000 a month or total.
$4,000 a month for a triplex, and this is in San Francisco.
Wow. Rent control.
And I was like, and she was like, she wanted, I think close to like $2 million. And I was like, I can't do that. I was like, your rents are way too undervalued. You're not going to find anybody to pay you this amount of money with those tenants in there. Yeah, and the tenants aren't stupid either. They're like, fuck no, I'm not leaving.
Yeah, she would have a much better chance getting $2 million vacant than that's crazy. That's just how silly San Francisco is. Crazy.
And then I have a friend named Noah who I think is Richmond up by you? Is that a city up by you?
Yeah, it's close.
He owns a property to where he cannot move out his tenants ever. Yeah. Unless he's going to move his mother into one of the units.
Family, yeah. Yeah. That's Richmond, that's Oakland, that's San Francisco, yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense. Like what? It's not my house anymore.
That is that's what happens when you invest in a town that is anti-landlord.
And so the next thing is like, what's stopping Fresno from getting there? Like they have the freaking rental inspections. And I think that is
I can live with those. You got to remember what started that, right? There was a couple of very large slumlords in Fresno.
There was one person, but like they still can't stop them. What are you going to do? They got more money in the city of Fresno.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I don't actually mind those inspections. I mean, I did when it first came out, but I don't mind them now. But I don't see Fresno County is a red city inside a blue state.
Very true.
So as long as that stays true, I'm okay.
But like, so what is it? One of those inspections is $75?
Yeah.
And then they have to go back and do another inspection. So what is that?
If they find something, yeah.
Those motherfuckers will find something. I don't even know basic math. What is that? $150. $150. So that's $150 in cat. That means someone's cash flow is pretty much eliminated
for the month. Yeah.
Every year?
Well, no, I mean, so again, right. If you have a building or houses, they're going to inspect some of them, not all of them. If you come back with certain ratios, they'll give you a 3, 4, 5 year grace period to do it again. They're just trying to find the bad actors. It's not, I was a little nervous up front, but it's not nearly as malicious as I thought it was going to be. It's okay. I think I've had all of my apartments inspected, and the reports that came back were fair. And, a couple of things we just didn't know about, so we fixed. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
But I've heard horror stories, and the house we were going to buy downtown, the one that we were going to buy downtown, to where she had tenants in there.
Mm-hmm.
The tenants tear that bitch up, destroy it, and then they called code enforcement on her.
Yeah,
and it cost her $80,000. And what was that thing worth? That thing was probably worth. We were going to give her $150 owner financed.
Yeah,
it's probably worth like $130 at the time.
Probably, yeah.
So how do you protect yourself in that situation?
Well, you can still evict people for damaging properties. That would have been the first thing I did. Is I would have evicted a tenant for damaging my property.
Oh my! Did I tell you about this? Did you hear about my recent situation with my tenant?
I read something on social media.
Oh my God, yeah. And then he sent me a picture of him tearing up the wall. I was like, oh, like the guy is legitimately on meth.
Save those stuff.
But like, he's got to go. But then, like, I'm not gonna be able to garnish his wages because he doesn't have a job. Like, I'll never get my money back.
I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in judgments over my career that I'll never see. It's price of admission, man. I wish I had a better story for you.
Does it at least go on their credit? Like, can I be there on their credit for the rest of their life?
No, 10 years.
I'll figure out a way to get there for the rest of their life. Fuck that guy.
Yep.
What's going on, Emilio? That's all I got, Mike. You got any other talking points you'd like to talk about, man?
No, I guess the other thing that happened this week, right? We got an inflation scare on Wednesday from CPI, PPI, kind of a dirty number. Let's pay attention, see what happens next week. Retail sales came in lighter than expected. So we'll see what's going on there. Credit card balances are down, means people paying off debt. So very interesting time in the world of the U.S. economy and consumer. So
okay, next thing.
Never boring.
Okay, before we do leave, inflation.
Yeah.
I am horrified. I am absolutely horrified of what the fuck is going to happen. Like, I don't get what these policymakers think is going to happen with all this spending. So like what, like it doesn't make any sense. It's really, really scary to where that's why cryptocurrency is going through the roof.
Yeah.
So what explain to people why inflation is happening and what you think is going to happen. Like, I'm freaked out about America. Like, I'm almost in like a doomsday state of mind. I was in Salt Lake the other day, and I was my good friend's dad. He was like, I went to Zimbabwe, and this is when Zimbabwe crashed. Yeah. He was like, before I went to Zimbabwe, and $1 American dollar was worth 20 Zimbabwe dollars. And he was there for 2 weeks. He was like, at the end of that 2 weeks, $1 American dollar could buy me anything I wanted in Zimbabwe. It was worth anything. It was worth all, because the currency got completely debased.
Yeah, good timing. That's a great story. So a couple of things. First and foremost, I wouldn't worry about the American economy, at least in the short term, 5-10 years. We are the reserve currency of the world. As long as we hold that status, I wouldn't sweat it. I mean, you need to be concerned, but not doom and gloom, run for the hills, all of that stuff. But it's something to be concerned about, because inflation is nasty. Inflation hits the poor the most. Inflation takes standard of living down. It's a nasty, nasty thing. And essentially what inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. Think about lumber, like we talked about earlier. Think about used cars. Whatever's out there where there's a very little supply and there's all this free money out there, it gets bid up. That's what inflation is. We've seen asset inflation. We've seen it in housing. We've seen it in crypto. We've seen it in tech stocks. It is real, and it should be concerned. But what we really need to be concerned about is consumer inflation. Asset inflation helps the rich. Consumer inflation decimates the poor, because gas is more, food is more, diapers are more, baby food is more, electricity is more, all of these things. So your standard of living goes down. We got a scary number on Wednesday at 4.2%.
And it's usually at 3, right?
No, it's under 2 usually. It's usually under 2.
Bro, what the fuck do they think is going to happen when people flipping burgers get paid $15 an hour? It's a supply chain issue. Like, you're going to get robots in place, and Like, so, and this is for the people who think that like $15 an hour minimum wage is a good idea. It's not.
It's there's only a couple of things that happen. One of the things is you're gonna get robots to replace people for jobs that can be repetitive, or a burger is not going to cost $4.99. It'll cost $8.99. Right? The money's going to be made somewhere. The person who owns the burger joint in this example is not going to make zero. You're in business to make a profit. So you either fire people and hire robots, or you raise the cost of your burger. And that's why it hurts the poor the most. The rich, they don't care. Do they really care if their burger is $4 or $40? Probably not. They're still going to buy the burger. But, at some point, you just stop buying burgers. You trade down to hot dogs. And if you can't buy hot dogs, you buy, I don't know, French fries or whatever it is. So inflation's bad. We should be concerned.
And then last thing, the Doge. What's going on with the Doge?
Oh, dude, the freaking Dogecoin. There's a lot of people out there. It's a pump and dump. It is a classic pump and dump. Folks, there's no utility. There's no dev team. Elon Musk loves to yank your chain. All of you people that were buying Doge on margin up to the S&L crisis, you freaking got your heads handed to you. Now you have zero. Congratulations, because it was down 30% while he was talking. You guys are just, you don't realize that Wall Street is playing you for a sucker. Wall Street got the nod that Elon Musk was going on SNL. So all they're doing is they're sending out whispers. Oh, he's the Dodge father or whatever, the Doge father. Oh, he's going to talk about crypto. Oh, go buy some. Right. Then you have beginner's luck. It goes up. You make some money. Then you go all in on margin.
And it shits the bed.
Falls 30% while he's talking. There are people that had tens of thousands of dollars that before the show was over had zero because they got margin called out. You guys don't think Wall Street is eating your lunch all the time? They are playing you for a sucker. Elon Musk tweets today, Doge goes up. Wall Street is playing you for a sucker. Doge comes out with 5 billion more coins every freaking year, has no use case, no utility, no dev team. Are you freaking kidding me?
There's nothing behind it. Nothing behind it.
There's a guy named Billy. Billy's behind it. Good old Billy.
But Billy's worth a lot of money.
Billy, man. Fuck, Billy. I don't get it. Whatever. You want to lose money? Go ahead.
All right, Mike. Where can people find out more about you?
Go to your Google search bar and type in one rental at a time, and you should find lots of things.
And has that course gone up in value yet?
It's gone up a great value, but the price is still $199 for about 15 more days.
15 more days. Go buy it while you can. Limited supply.
Limited supply. $199.
Limited supply. $199. Only 10 spots left.
I love you, man. That's awesome.
Thanks for coming on, Mike. I will talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for tuning in to the Free Agent Real Estate Investing Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Winning Move Podcast. I hope it helps you make all the right moves in your life and business. Please make sure to go like and subscribe on any podcast platform that you're listening to, and make sure to go follow me on Instagram @StratDaddy. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you soon.